But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot see.
Good evening, welcome to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Wraith. Start of a new week, Fans Forum. Delighted to welcome Alan, Kevin and Darren tonight. The link's in the chat if anybody else wants to join us. I think Barry might be jumping on at some point as well. Plenty to talk about as the transfer window comes to an end and the second leg of the semi-final looms tomorrow night with Newcastle having a 1-0 advantage. Here is Barry, in fact. I'll bring him in. Good evening, Barry. Alan, coming to you first, mate. What have you made of the last couple of days? Because we've had a big in Anthony Gordon and a big out in John Joe Shelvey. And, of course, a little bit of business might still be done before the transfer window slams shut tomorrow night. But what's your take on it all, Alan?
Well, for a balanced view, Steve, Anthony Gordon, obviously, it split the fan base 50-50 from the comments I've heard regarding Anthony Gordon. But I just look at this way, Steve. I said it from the off. We've got rid of Chris Wood for 15 plus loan signing, 2.5 year, 5 million, 17.5 million off the figure. And you're talking about a lad getting him for 27 with the add-ons, with a 40 million and 5 million add-ons. He's 21. I think Kevin will probably know more than me, teaching youngsters football and basically, you know, how they are. As he grows up, he'll be a better player. And I think he's raw potential. And he's been playing in a very poor team. And to be honest with you, and the young lad from West Ham, he's had good reports about him, Ashby, you know, coming up. And the West Ham fans are disappointed to see him go. And we've all got to remember as well, lads, as regarding the team, it's a very old team we've got. You've got Shaw, you've got, you know, Trippier, you've got Byrne, and we're having to recycle the squad. So regarding Shelvey, I think it's great. I really do. I think he's served well. We shouldn't decry him, but it's come to the end of his shelf life, and he's no good to where we want to be. And mentality goes out the window now, lads, because we've got so many of them players that have helped out the championship, and now that the shelf life's over, I'm delighted that he's going. But like obviously we're going to be short in midfield, but hopefully in the next 24 hours we'll get a midfield player in. And the Sheffield lad has been touted for a good 12 months. That he's been an up and coming player, the Norwegian lad that we've been linked with, trying to steal off Fulham. But let's hope that Conor Gallagher might still come, Steve, in the last few hours. That deal Enzo might be happening at Chelsea for £105 million. They just seem to be spending money as if it's going water, really. So Chelsea have got to offload some of their players because they've got a massive squad, 32, 35, and surely they can't keep so many players happy going on there. So there could be movement in the next 24 hours, lads, but we'll wait and see. I'll stop talking now, Steve, because I'll wrap it on for a half an hour.
Yeah, it's all right. It's okay. It's always good to hear what you've got to say, Alan. Sander Berge is the player that we should get, says Jean. You know, from my perspective, I don't know a great deal about him. I know a bit about Conor Gallagher, but not a great deal about Sander Berge, but seems to be certainly in Newcastle's radar. Obviously, the news coming out, Darren, today about Gallagher is that Everton have put a bid in and it's been rejected by the player. The player doesn't want to go to Everton. I'd imagine the player probably wants to stay in London. He went to Crystal Palace, of course, and you know that might be his chosen destination if they want to come in and get him. But it's, I guess a lot will happen in the next 24 hours. We've just got to keep an eye on it. But Eddie Howe won't want to be short in the midfield area, Darren.
No, totally, Steve. It goes on Conor Gallagher. What's his ambition? Yes, he wants to stay in London, get the Palace, fair dues, because he's a London boy. Palace, he's played at Palace before. He's good bottom half of the league. That's where Palace will probably finish. But or does he want a chance to come to Newcastle, where we're top three, get him on loan, obligation to buy him, and if he loves up here, you've got a chance to come to Newcastle, where they're like, his agent saying, "What? Gone Newcastle? What's going on?" It's like we're building something If he wants to be a part of it, be part of it. But you see why he's rejected Everton, because you know for a fact he's going to a relegation battle. And I think he is better player than being in a relegation zone. So I wouldn't mind Conor Gallagher. I'm a big fan of him. But it's all dependent on the boy. If he wants to stay in London, Palace, fair dues. But hopefully he gets somebody else. Like, we do need cover because John Joe's away. I kind of agree with Alan. He's been a good service, John Joe, but we're slowly getting rid of like the deadwood bit by bit. Like like next year in the January and end of the season in June and July, we'll see some more players go because we've still got a lot of deadwood there. Bit by bit, we're getting rid of them in the right manner, not just getting them out of the way. So I think Eddie Howe's nobody's doing, and I don't think you can tell he's like John Joe, but I don't think John Joe's never been a part of his plan because he's never been in the team, has he, that much with Eddie Howe, has he? His work rate is not really. I'm not a fan of John Joe, personally, because he's only had a couple of good games. What I can name on the top of my head, the first game was signed him against West Ham in a blinder. But bar that, I can't name any more great games he's had. Me personally.
He is another one who splits opinion. It has to be said. Obviously, depending on whether Chelsea, bring in the latest acquisition for a mind-boggling, £104 million. I guess that depends whether they let Gallagher go. I mean, just on that as well, Darren, Chelsea have spent, if that deal went through, they spent over £600 million on 18 players since Todd Bowley went in, which is about 370 million more than Manchester United have spent. And get this, it's a lovely little stat that was on Sky earlier: 5 million less than the whole Bundesliga spent, and they've only recouped £49 million on player sales. That's absolutely ludicrous.
But does that mean they have to qualify for the Champions League this season?
Yeah. I mean, it's a hell of a gamble.
Yeah.
Because if they don't qualify for the Champions League, they'll get hit because. And I know I was seeing something the other day on Sky. Apparently, what they're doing, they're giving players like a 7, 8 year contract, so they pay them every year. But Sky say they're going to stop the way Chelsea's doing it. Is not doing nothing wrong. Against the law, it is in the rules, but the rules are going to change because they know what Chelsea's doing. I don't know how true I've heard that.
So, I mean, would you like to see Gallagher come in, Darren? Is that a name that you'd be happy with? I mean, it's clearly a better replacement. It's a better replacement.
He's young, he's hungry, he's 23, I believe.
Yeah.
And I would like me personally, but if he wants to stay in London, it's fair play to him because come up north, it's a big decision for a young lad. But Anthony Gordon, because he like a scout up, he knew. Scouts and Georgia are roughly the same. People aren't they?
Yeah.
So it's London to Newcastle, it's a hard place to come and get settled in Newcastle if you're a London boy. But I believe he can do it for 6 months, and if he liked it that much, he could probably stay. But it's all on the player, really. If he wants to come for a challenge and come, but if he wants to stay in London, he's probably got the Palace.
Yeah. Barry, good evening, mate.
Hello, Matt.
Yeah, good to see you. What's your take on the ins and outs?
It's a weird one because I've been off today, so I've been hurriedly catching up on. It's your fault, your old programs. I've been rewatching the Amigos from Friday night, trying to make sense of all the stuff that's going on with Chelsea. And I've just finished watching that over again, and they've signed another 2 players since you did the program on Friday. Or they look like they're going to sign another 2 players. Like, what the hell is going on? I read this stuff this morning about Gallagher saying that obviously he's knocked back Everton. Craig Hope's putting all sorts of stuff out saying Newcastle is his preferred choice if he is going to get pushed out the door. And then I was looking at the fan site for Chelsea, and it's saying that they're going to make a decision first thing tomorrow morning whether he's going to go or not, and then obviously look at who's interested from there. So I'm guessing we'll find out first thing tomorrow morning. Berg, I've been reading as much as I can on this guy. I don't remember him being in the Premiership. I hold my hands up. So I've been looking at the stuff he's done. Is he better than Joe Linton?
6'5",
No, not really.
6'5" fits the remit as height wise.
I mean, we rave about Joe Linton's abilities as a defensive midfielder. I've been desperate for them to sign somebody on the wing so Joe Linton can go back to where he plays best, which is he destroys the opposing team's game and he wins the ball for us. Is this guy better than him? I don't think he is. And I think the other thing with Gallagher as well, is he better than Willock? And it's what you guys said the other night. Is he better than Willock and Longstaff? Probably not. I don't think and I think those two will still improve. I don't know how far Gallagher's along the line for development wise, whether he will physically get any better. I'm praying like mad that the rumours about Maddison is still true. That Maddison there's rumours of gaining ground because of the replacements that Leicester seem to be signing. And then it's crazy because it's Leicester who've got no money. But then they're supposedly signing £30 million worth of players in the last couple of days. You just think there's something there. There's somebody at that club's going to leave to make up the money that they're spending. The other one was just reading the bizarre stories around ESM. Is that AC Milan are interested in him but have got no money. Suddenly, mysteriously, there's Arab Emirates clubs interested in ESM, but it won't name who they are. And you just think, what on earth is going on? I mean, the downside is I'm off work tomorrow, so I'll sit like a knacker in front of the telly for 12 hours.
Yeah. I mean, the big thing about the press conference was that anyhow was asked the question, by Lee Ryder, is there, any truth in the rumours that the ESM may go in this window? None at all. He's an integral part of the squad. No story in it, and you've just got to take Eddie at his word. ESM's going nowhere, Barry.
I think he's finished. I think he's gone in the summer because I think we'll replace him with somebody more sustained and more to show the sparks that ESM does on a much more regular basis. Unfortunately for me, ESM doesn't do it often enough. I think he is. I think he can be used as that super sub role to come on and run amok. But he's not going to settle for that forever. He's going to want to be playing first team football, and I don't think he's that good anymore against the other players we've got. I'm really got my fingers crossed about Gordon. I was horrified when they mentioned us looking to sign him. So this is some twisty little kid who every time somebody blows on him, he fouls out and rolls around the pitch. I thought we've already got that in ESM, so we didn't need another one. But then, obviously, I heard the story about the Metro Centre, and I found a thing that the Everton fans, when they still liked him, had put online about him doing absolute boatloads with their version of the food bank, Steve.
Yeah.
He'd been heavily involved in that, and I saw the interviews that he'd done with local press, and he just came across as such a nice bloke. He was putting his heart and soul into helping what he classed as his people from that area, and I think that for me made us think, give the guy a chance. He's obviously coming up, and he's done the right, like you guys said last night. He's done the right interviews. He's said the right things. Give the guy a chance. Maybe he's not as bad as the image we've been given playing against him.
No, definitely not. I genuinely think that Gordon is going to be a player, 100%. I think he'll grow in stature at Newcastle, and I think, like I've said on the show before, he'll become a bit like David Speedy was at Chelsea back in the 80s. The player that you love to have playing for you, but hate to have playing against you. Rumours coming out as well at Leicester, of course, just to put that smile back on your face, Barry, that Maddison and Tielemans have both reportedly rejected new contracts. It's only a rumour that at the moment anyway, but if that is true, then maybe we will see some action from Leicester in the next 24 hours. Wait and see. Kevin, good to see you, mate. Your take on the ins and outs. Shelvey, of course, 7 years at the club. I think Darren probably nailed it quite well. You struggle to think of games that he played so well. You can think of a few goals he scored, some absolute pearlers, especially in the Championship. But he always been a bit of a flatter to deceive. Never really got on with some of the managers that we've had here. You can think of one or two just off the top of your head who he clashed with, but seemed to find solace under the gaffer Eddie Howe. But unfortunately, injuries is put paid to potentially seeing out his career here.
Yeah, I totally agree. And firstly, just want to, because my son will be watching it. It's Keegan's 13th birthday on Wednesday, so happy birthday!
Oh, happy birthday, Keegan!
It's his birthday. So he'll be watching it. He'll be giving us a text later on saying, "Oh, he didn't say it now, so I said something. So I love you and happy 13th birthday." So now he's a teenager, so that's interesting. But yeah, going back to the Gordon stuff. Again, like I said, I didn't know too much about him, to be honest. You see him when he played against where, and he looked like a clever, intelligent footballer. So I just done the old YouTube search of a transfer market clip and the highlight reels and whatever, and have to say he's got a magical first touch. Turn a pace, can run at players, can score goals. I've seen some at international when he was a younger lad and stuff like that or whatever. But it looks like a really, really good bit of business. And then when Barry was talking there, and I was just scribbling something down about ASM leaving in the summer and stuff like that, you could say it with Eddie Howe's press conference. You could say that's a natural replacement for him, based off of what Eddie Howe said. With his work rate, he likes it in terms of pressing from the front. He's up and down box to box midfield. He can turn like a Miguel Almiron, but on the other side, essentially. So you could look at it that way and say it could be a potential replacement for that. But again, that will say what happens in the summer. You stole me thunder about Shelvey. I think injuries over the past couple of years have sort of thwarted his development under, obviously with Bruce or whatever, but under Eddie Howe has really hurt him moving forward. But at the end of the day, I don't think Shelvey's an Eddie Howe type of player. He wants to play it at his own pace, and he can't play it at his own pace. Unfortunately,
it doesn't work enough, does he?
He doesn't go side to side. Well, he does, but it's slow. I mean, my missus could probably run faster than him.
That's how. Carefully, that's how he gets his stats up. He passed the ball side to side.
It's side to side, exactly. Darren, you're right.
When he pins it long, it's either over the ball too long or just enough, and he's done it for years. He's got away with too much.
Exactly, and I totally agree. And he looks for that I call it a World Cup pass. You hear that phrase a lot. And that's what he looks for, and just looks for the $1 million pass. And it's he wants to play, like I said, play the game his own way. And I don't think it's beneficial how Eddie Howe wants us to play in that role. But the Conor Gallagher one, again, jotted down. It's a comparison to Joe Willett, like Darren said. Bring him on for 6 months. If he likes it, he likes it. If he doesn't, he doesn't. And similar to Joe Willett, he hit the ground running under Bruce somehow, but he did, and because he was a good player, and eventually we got him. So similar type of deal. In that, just a 6 month loan option to buy, whatever that is. We'll probably again visit in the summer, but again, not too sure. I don't know. I haven't seen any about with a lad from Sheffield United, but if he's 6'5" and playing in a 6, I don't think I would like to mix it with him and Joe Linton in there with Bruno just in front or whatever, so, but again, it's a squad depth type of option to have. So yeah, I'm happy with the business. Heard a little whisper this morning, not saying from who, but the lad from West Ham's signed out on the dotted line. So I've heard that this morning for 3 million or something like that. So hasn't been confirmed from the club, but that's a little nugget from my end.
You tell what Eddie Howe tried. You see what Eddie Howe he's getting players work rate. He's signing players with good work rates.
Yeah,
and that's what I've never had in a long time. Mm-hmm. And it's a big thing, work rate, isn't it? Like say, I said, go and be going work rate 10 out of 10, up and down. Conor Gallagher, get him. His work was quite good. So you see what he's trying to do.
And with that, in the Volga Premier League experience, they're all young English lads, and that's. And I grew up in this John Hall era where you want 11 Geordies on the pitch. Well, we'll get the next best thing with 11 Englishmen, or majority of English who know what the Premier League's about and know what Newcastle's about. Ideally, local lads, obviously, but at the same time, if you get young English lads coming in and playing and know what the Premier League is all about from a young age, then it's all better for us at the end of the day.
See, my only worry is that, apart from Bruno, for me, I know we've got good players and we've got good attacking midfield players. The only creativity we've got, something out of the box, is Bruno. Yeah. Shelvey had it on occasion, but for me, his behaviour towards Longstaff didn't deserve to wear the shirt again. He's just he basically tried to ruin the kid rather than help bring him on. And I can't see Gallagher being that spark. The only person I can potentially see is Maddison. And I don't think he's exactly the type of player that Bruno is, but I'm just worried that we're still missing that. We're creating all these really fast, really quick players, but I just wanted somebody with a little bit of I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I'm the same age as Steve. I can remember watching Ginola when he first signed and just sitting going,
yeah,
the guy was just incredible. I want somebody like that. We're building a team that come in the league, but we need a Beasley, we need another one.
Yeah.
Which I know is being greedy when we've already got Bruno, but God forbid he gets injured, because then you think, well, who else? I'm just a little bit disappointed. I know we keep getting mentioned Brazilian after Brazilian who I don't know anything about. Frank, I have no idea whether he's that sort of skillful player or whether he's an out-and-out striker. I was hoping there was somebody along those lines coming, but
so
you know.
Sky's just running the story. Harrison Ashby's at Newcastle now taking his medicals, so that's not far off being announced as well.
The good with Anthony Gordon thing, he puts pressure on Mikel Almiron too, because Almiron's in that team. Yeah. He's got no one challenge him, really, has he?
No.
So it's put we've got more options on the bench now. You got Gordon, ESM, Ajax, or can come on. It's got more options. If we can get one more centre midfield player, I'll be happy on loan. But it's going to be an interesting day tomorrow.
Yeah. It most certainly is. I genuinely think as well that, if we don't get a player in, we're going to be slightly short in that centre midfield area, but we can move things around, we can change things. I think if we get a centre midfield player in, I think there's going to be, potentially Jacob Murphy's the one who's going to be the fall guy here, because, I think somebody's just said it in the chat as well, that when there's a substitution made for Almiron, it's usually Murphy coming on. It's more likely to be Anthony Gordon from now on. So maybe Murphy's going to find himself slightly down the pecking order. It'll be interesting to see. Paul Patterson said, who would the panel prefer, Maddison or Tielemans? I'd go with Tielemans. Alan, we'll go around the board with this one. What's your take on that? Maddison all day. Same
without question. I wouldn't even go there. Maddison for me, and I think that's why they're looking for this Norwegian guy. If the Norwegian guy comes in, then Bruno will be pushed further forward to do what Barry was just saying about creativity, because Bruno's the guy. If you remember the Fulham game, lads, he was there a couple of times. He got men through with slide rule passes, and that's Maddison for me. Maddison all day. I'll leave it brief and short, but Maddison without question, lads.
Yeah, okay. Darren?
Yeah, Maddison, because he's got that little finesse, he's got the pass, he knows what he's doing. Tielemans, I don't think would fit in Newcastle squad personally, but Maddison will do for me. But I don't think we'll get him. If we get him, we're going to be next in January, July for me personally. But if we don't sign anybody, I don't think it's that bad, because after the cup game, it's just mostly league games, you know what I mean? And in fact, Eddie Howe likes to play his strongest team every time. So I don't think it's so bad if we don't get anybody in, but it'd be nice if we did.
Okay, Barry, Maddison or Tielemans?
I would be Maddison's easily. I think Maddison for me would be the closest thing to what we had with Rob Lee in his prime. We're just breaking from midfield, the ability to score goals, just an all-round attacking midfield player. I think Tielemans, he would be a good squad player, but if it was a straight choice, no chance.
Yeah, okay, and Kev?
Yeah, full house, Maddison. I think he'll give that extra in the final third, like what we were talking about earlier, to unlock the door, essentially. And, I would think with Eddie's house system, I think Bruno stays as 6 and Longstaff might have a bit of a fight on his hands.
Interesting point by Craig. He said, why does everyone think Gordon will replace Almiron when he's playing with inverted wingers? I mean, it's a good point. He may well play him instead of ESM on the left. I mean, it's competition. That's what it is. But the good thing that Gordon can play left or right. And as Eddie Howe said this afternoon, we haven't got like for like with Chris Wood going out, we've got somebody as well who's not only a winger primarily, but also can play 9 or 10. He's had to do that at Everton, so he can play across the front, and I think that's why Eddie Howe's bought him.
Yeah, totally good.
Yeah. Okay. Coming up to the half-hour mark, so we'll play the ads. A big thank you to all our sponsors, as always. Thanks to Skips and Bins, telephone 0800 25 45 25 3, email inquiries at skipsandbins.com, and our website skipsandbins.com. Easy contract free and pay-as-you-go waste collection. Thanks to Gardener Feeling Dispensaries, CBD hemp and cannabinoid specialists. You can find them at thegohd.com. Thanks to Mr. Vicky's sauces, which are handmade in Cumbria, and you can find them at mrvickies.co.uk. If you want to make an order, give them a call on 01768 210 102 or email info@mrvickies.co.uk. Thanks to Blowhole Breweries, you can get a selection of beers, and the cans are in the design of the old Newcastle United entertainers strips. Blowholebrewery.co.uk. Thanks to Melly's Carpets and Beds, laying our reputation one recommendation at a time. The best quality around at the cheapest prices. Melly's Beds and Carpets.co.uk. Email sales@mellysbedsandcarpets.co.uk or give Melly a call on 01670 632 216. And thanks to United Group Travel Limited, UK Coach Holidays in Morpeth, 01670 362 460 or mobile 07957 141 654. Graham, your driver, Beverly answering your calls and looking after you on your tour. Some great deals coming up there. Get yourself onto the website to check them out. Thanks also to Media Arts, who do all of our videos and help us with the technological side of things. And thanks to qtechshop.co.uk, the makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Wallsend, Newcastle, and the guys who run our website, NUFCmatters.com. If you want to subscribe to the channel, then hit the subscribe button below. Hit the thumb up, which is the like button, which does us a big favour with the algorithm. And click share. Share it to Newcastle United Facebook groups or Twitter accounts or your own social media to help our community grow. And if you want to join the channel, hit the join button. And for as little as $1.99 a month, you can get some members-only videos and chances to win some fantastic prizes. We're also available as a podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Podbean, and the rest. Don't forget as well that we do events through NUFC Matters. And this one is the next event coming up, Friday the 24th of February, an evening with Newcastle United legend Steve Howe. Friday the 24th of February, Tyneside Irish Centre, and tickets are available at £50 from newcastlelegends.com. If you also go onto Voucher and search for the event, you can pick up a bargain on there. Don't forget, we also support the food bank on this channel. www.nufcfansfoodbank.co.uk is where you can find the Matchday Bucket. You can make a virtual donation to the Matchday Bucket 365 days of the year to keep helping the food bank in Newcastle. I've got a new event coming up, an evening with Supermac and Gibbo, which is at the Felon Cricket Club, 16th of February, 7 o'clock. Tickets are £10 and they're available from the venue. Don't forget as well, Steve Howe, Friday the 24th of February at the Tyneside Irish Centre. Tickets are actually £15 and they're available from NUFCmatters.com. Lee Clark is on at the Surf Cafe, 6 tickets left. There's only 30 allowed in that place, so 6 tickets left for that one. Get your tickets from the Tynemouth Surf Cafe. And Nobby Solano, Saturday the 25th of March, Tyneside Irish Centre. Tickets from NUFCmatters.com. Okay, back into the chat and quite a few questions coming in. Alan, I'm sure you've seen this. I noticed you were acknowledging it. Lookalike, it's probably going to get submitted now. I think I prefer to be compared to Anthony Gordon and Anthony Gordon's dad, like.
I haven't seen his dad, like, so I would like to see it, but no. I'll be signing a few autographs tomorrow then, Steve.
It's a classic.
I'm in the top of the Melbourne stand.
I tell you what I do want to pay a tribute to, Alan, and that's just watching Anthony Gordon getting walked around the club. how good was it good to see the footage, but also, don't know whether you've seen the stills, but Anthony Gordon getting taken in and sitting down with Steve Nixon and with a couple of other people from the club.
Watching the video.
Watching a video, yeah. Which looked at the city, it looked at the fans, it looked at the ground, it gave a bit of history. What did you make of that, Alan?
I thought it was fantastic, Steve. You know, this is what we've got to do now, to bring young lads into the club and make them appreciate the history of the club. I mean, to be honest with you, the main take over the whole weekend, I know I'm going off in a little tangent, lads, but there was a picture of Anthony Gordon with the players in the canteen, and most fans were talking how well the canteen was, more than a £40 million player we just bought. You know, that shows you how far we've come. 2 years ago, lads, we're talking about the loan signing for Shelvey from Leicester, and it's just amazing. And I hope it's a welcome that he's had, that he'll take on board, and we wish the lad well. I think it was fantastic, mate. Really do.
Yeah. Same to you, Darren. What's your thoughts on just the way that Newcastle do things now?
I think a lot of it's got to do with Eddie Howe. I think he's done most of that. Like, he wants to play as I don't know if you watched that Bruno interview on Sky Sports before the Southampton match, he had to do his player talk he was nervous. He couldn't get any sleep, but it was his turn to do it. And Eddie Howe was like doing that, and whoever comes in the club, they've got to witness everything, the team bond and the city, the club, the history of it. A lot of that's got to do with Eddie Howe, and I do believe he's learned that, and he's managing what he's done in that. Like, if you watch his podcast, he's went away and learned these ideas, and I think he's bringing these ideas into Newcastle, and it's big fair play to him. I think it's working. Everything he's doing right, and it's just fantastic to see. And we go out and sit down and watch the video, and like, wow, he completely locked into it and showing the passion that you're not. Look at that, man! It's just like, how good's that?
There we go. Just a few images there as you were talking, Darren. Just of him sitting, just obviously with his agent, with his partner, and just a guide to the area. I mean, it's like a different club, Barry, isn't it?
It is. I mean, I obviously remember the stories that Shearer told about being introduced to Jackie Milburn, and obviously other players who've come in have had legends go and talk to them when they've signed for the club. I think we're getting back to the good stuff rather than the Mike Ashley era, where we're putting that completely behind us now and just reinvesting, being proud of our heritage again, which I think is huge for Newcastle fans. You know, it's one of the main things that everybody's really proud of. So to see Eddie Howe, who's not got that Geordie connection, has just taken it 200% on board, and he's running with it. I mean, I read one story about one of the first conversations Gordon had when he was there was Trippier, and it was a little bit about the run-in that they'd had the last time he was here as an Everton player, and it just said something along the line they had a chat about it and put it straight to bed. And it was out the way and finished with, and it was just like this. That's what you want from them. I think that was the worry. We've got a team of characters who work as a team. We've got 3 or 4 people who could be captain in there. That was just the worry, that if you brought somebody in who was awkward, who had some sort of issues with him. But I'm now starting to believe that Howe and whoever's recruiting these players will be, if they've got that, they'll cross them off the list straight away. Which in the past, it would have probably been one of the reasons we're getting a player cheaper, because he had an attitude problem, he had issues. And you think, to some extent, is that why we got Ryan Fraser on a free? Because what has happened at his previous club, nobody really wanted him, so he was without a contract. We don't want those players now. We want the players who are going to come in and build on it and take on it. So I think, great for them. I think how just more and more respect to the guy as he goes along. I think everything's going in the right direction, Steve. It
is. Kevin, that must fill you with joy, just seeing something as simple as that. I mean, it's a basic, really, isn't it? You would imagine Premier League club of Newcastle's stature would have done that, all the time. I mean, it played to your strengths, the crowd, the area, the passion. But great to see that our new owners are doing that, and that's the kind of welcome a player gets.
And you hit it with it. Well, it's simplistic, essentially. It's not rocket science to put your brand new signing in front of a TV screen with his agent and Dan. I seen still with Dan Ash was sitting there as well. Basically it's professional and how a club should be run. That's what you should be doing. We should have done that 15, 20 years ago. At the end of the day. And they're basically making you players fall in love with the club like we do, and the area like we do. So again, it's engulfing them with all this history, all this nostalgia, and the area what it is to actually be a part of it, be a part of something versus what we had in the past. Just come on and just whoever it was, doesn't matter who it was, from years gone by to where now we've just come and play. Show up to Benton on a Monday, show up to St James's Park on a Saturday, and then that'll be it. And now it's a family atmosphere, and everybody seems to be buying into that family atmosphere.
No, certainly do. Lots of great comments coming in. Jules says, I thought the way that Gordon addressed how he ended it at Everton was class. He acknowledged the situation in a very measured way. Lots of discussion about Gordon arriving. Gordon looked like a kid landing at Disneyland for the first time when he's been used to Blackpool, says Buck Tizer. Bit of chat going on about Peter Beardsley. Sparky D says, can only remember my dad raving about one player, and that was Peter Beardsley, so he must have been bloody good, lol. He was absolutely top class. And David Cook, who was busy working his way through George Mitchell's Those Were the Days, says, photos at the training ground. Imagine when new players saw wheelie bins in a paddling pool. Yeah, exactly. That's why we never signed many players back in those days. Alan, it's the big match tomorrow, and Newcastle United against Southampton's second leg of the semi-final of the Carabao Cup. Newcastle 1-0 up. Eddie Howe was asked about it. He, of course, in his own imitable fashion, played it down and said, the job's not done. It's a tight game. There's a couple of questions. I mean, I did it on the press review. Graham Courtney, who used to be the press officer at Newcastle, said, 7-2 on aggregate. You must enjoy playing Southampton. He said, well, actually, he says the 4-1 win. He says, shouldn't have been 4-1. We were lucky that day. The rest of them have been tight games. I don't expect this to be any different. Really, really just making sure that the players' feet are on the ground. They're not complacent and they go out and do the job in a professional manner.
Well, to be honest with you, I mean, when I watched the game, we should have won that game by far more than one goal to nil. If you look at the chances we had, Joe Linton really should have had a hat-trick on the night. But I'm just hoping, I'm excited. I've been nervous as hell, lads, at the game. But I'm just hoping that don't be complacent because, a lot of people are saying we're there, we're at Wembley, this, that and the other. No, we're not. It's half-time. It's only half-time, lads. We've got to treat this as if it was nils each. If we treat it properly, we should have no problems because we're a better team. We are simply a better team. So let's make it count. Embrace the pressure because at the end of the day, surely everybody on the panel, everybody watching the chat will want these games year in, year out. So if you cannot handle it, we get too nervous now, what we're going to be like next year, the year after, when we're in the same sort of situation, we'll hope, because the reason why there's been so much excitement, I mean, Chelsea fans, Arsenal fans, Man U fans would be laughing at us. Oh, it's only the Carabao Cup. But to get a trophy would be absolutely massive for the city and break the hoodoo, because we've all got this, it could go wrong tomorrow night. It shouldn't go wrong, lads. We've got a far better team and just prove it. And again, I could rabbit on. I'm getting excited now and nervous, but I think we'll win 3-0.
We need to get off to a really good start. That's for certain. I think if Newcastle can get the first goal, I think Southampton's heads will go down. The flip side of that is that Southampton come and get an early goal, and suddenly it's all square. We need an early goal, don't we, Alan?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it'll settle everybody down, because then they'll have to be even more open. I'm expecting an open game. So if there's nils each at half time, then the nerves will set in, because obviously if Southampton score a goal, then it'll be all square. But if we score first, I see only one outcome tomorrow night, lads. So, I'm praying, fingers crossed, toes crossed, my teddy bear crossed, everything that we'll get to Wembley tomorrow night. and I'm expecting a 3-0 win. And I'll be celebrating in the town on tomorrow night, lads.
Book Tizer says if we can get an early goal tomorrow, I think we'll be fine. Darren, do you agree?
To be honest, the first time in a long, I'm not too nervous for tomorrow. I'm more nervous for Saturday. I think Saturday's a much harder game. I do think if we get an early goal in the first 20 minutes, then I think we'll cruise to victory. But I think the scarves are going to be there tomorrow. It's going to be some noise there when the players walk out. They're going to get a wake-up call tomorrow. Like the Leicester game. How while the flags going, all the black and white fans singing. If we get a goal in the first 15, 20 minutes, I think we've won the game. Like I'm not being big-headed, Stephen. I mean, for the first time in a long, I'm not too nervous for tomorrow. I'm more nervous for Saturday. I think Saturday is a much tougher game, a horror game. But because you've got to think Southampton are still in the relegation battle. Their eyes are on the league. So I don't think they'll play a full-strength team tomorrow as well, even though they've got the stay they are. But I think they've got eyes on elsewhere tomorrow. I know that. But I think I'm going for 3 or 4-0 tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Barry?
I mean, I think it is. It's going to have that atmosphere around it. But I'm just so glad that the away game was first. Yeah. Because then at home, with the fans behind them, with the atmosphere, with that immense sort of just strength that built at St James's, I can't see them beating us. I really can't. I think even if they did score, I think the fans would get behind the team and the way Howe plays his attacking football with the potentially the subs, whoever they are, we've got on the bench. I don't think he'll let us get beat. And I don't think when we're on form, which I think he'll find a way to do that, I don't think Southampton are capable of beating us. I think in the final it's going to be a different story because I think we're on a par with Man U now. Mm-hmm. But tomorrow, fingers crossed that my biggest worry for tomorrow is what does he do with Isaac? Does he, does he play him instead of Wilson? I don't want to see him start ASM because I don't think ASM deserves it. I think the ASM would be better coming on during the match if we're struggling. The question is, as you guys said the other day, Steve, Wilson looks poorly. He doesn't look right. If it is long COVID, does he stick Isaac up front and play him from the start? I'm going for 2-0. I was passed by 2 magpies this morning on the way out with a dog, and I'm going for 2-0. Stick with that.
I like it. Kevin, what's your feeling about tomorrow? Obviously, you'll be pacing up and down the room across in the United States.
Well, I've got to go coaching directly after the game, so it'll be that's going to be an interesting one tomorrow. But no, I'm positive about it. Again, it's like Eddie Howe was saying, it's with the flags and all the rest with the scarves. We've got to shut that noise out essentially, and not let that affect us because of you talked about the psychology of the game. It's called inverted view theory. If you look it up, it's basically how motivated you are going into the game. If you're nice and balanced, then we'll have a balanced, controlled performance, and you'll get the optimum levels. So that's what he'll be approaching it with. It's embrace it and enjoy it, but at the same time, and like Alan's, and I agree with him. What just go out and pretty much go out and enjoy yourself. You 1-0. It's you one foot in the final, essentially. And again, using that positivity to our advantage, shut out the noise. And I'm again quoting just Eddie Howe. It's simple stuff, and it's going playing on the front foot. But also, you got to think about how Southampton going to approach it. Like Darren said, bigger fish to fry with the Premier League. Are they going to throw everything at it and get back into the game? So again, we've got the cards. We've got the good hands here where we can just approach it how we want to approach it, control it from second one. So I'm looking forward to it. Not really as nervous as I was before in the first game. Again, because it's it's your first one of the tie. But I think if we start, it all depends how we start. If we start the game flying on the front foot, creating chances, one will come. Again, I'm not going to put a prediction on it. I don't care who scores. I'm not bothered as long as we get a goal or somebody. It doesn't matter how we get there. Again, Mitch always says in whatever shows I've watched over the period of time, You don't get on the trophy. You don't say who scored when and what and how it all come about. You don't get pictures on the trophy. You just get the silverware at the end of it. So that's how I say it. As long as somebody scores, I'm not really bothered, and I'll be driving to work tomorrow night, absolutely buzzing. Even though it's going to absolutely chuck it down tomorrow night, so I'll be like being back home. So I'll be doing all that. Yeah, so I'm excited for it. So let's bring it on.
Kevin, do you think you'll go with an unchanged team? Do you think you'll make changes? I mean, it's always difficult to pick the bones out of an Eddie Howe press conference. I do try my best, but again, he doesn't give too much away. I mean, he was asked a couple of direct questions, about Wilson's lack of form. Wilson's trained well this week. He's had his first full week's training since the World Cup. Will Isaac start? That's for me to know and you to find out. We've got absolutely nothing out of Eddie Howe, and you wouldn't expect it. But I mean, he's not one for changing things. You don't change what isn't broken. Newcastle went to Southampton against Southampton away in the first leg. They won 1-0. Is he going to reward the team that went away and did the job so well with a home performance as well? I would say he probably will. I'm not expecting, unless there's been an injury. I don't think there'll be any changes, Kevin.
I don't think so either. However, it's funny that he does his press conferences before he does his last training session before a game. So he uses that time to do his media duties, and he does that very well. So you can't, normally it would be after the fact in the afternoon or whatever. Now it's pre, so he can keep his cards very close to his chest and not let journalists and media outlets know what's going on really. And he'll make his final decisions today after that last session, and I think he knows obviously now, seeing what the Americans call over here like a walkthrough, set plays and all that sort of stuff, whatever, who's up for it, who's ready to go. And again, I agree with Barry with the Wilson illness, that something's just aloof, something's just off. But do you get 60 minutes out of him? Do you get 50 minutes, whatever it is, out of him? You got Isaac to come on, which is not a bad replacement. So I think he'll keep it as is. It's not broken, essentially. But again, can we? What's he seen from Southampton side to maybe change it? What did he see in the first game to maybe change that? I don't know, but I think he'll, like I said, I think he'll keep it as is.
Can't miss as many chances. I'm just saying they can't miss as many chances as they did in the first game. Shoot. It's never happened all season where they're cutting at the side of a barn door from like 2 foot away, and you just think this is a one-off. I think
even Eddie Howe said football's a funny game, so you can't. It's an uncontrollable, and that's but you never say never. But I understand what you're saying. I mean, we could, but I highly doubt it based on Eddie Howe. But I understand what you're saying.
I mean, Wilson's the best out-and-out striker we've got. He would be my first choice if he was fully fit, but that's up to Eddie Howe, isn't it? And it's I love the comment along the bottom, Steve, where some guy put on, he says, "Why not play Pope up front? He's got nothing else to do."
There was a great lookalike on Friday. Was it Nick Pope's that good? He stands in the crowd whilst he's got, and there was a picture of this guy in the crowd who looked like Nick Pope, basically supporting the team whilst the game was in session. But yeah, it's good. But yeah, I think unchanged, Barry. Unchanged, do you think, Barry?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think only because of his loyalty to the team.
Yeah.
Which seems really important to how I think it will be.
Yeah. Okay, Darren, unchanged.
What's your prediction for the Modesty first of all?
I do not think he'll change that team. I went out when we did the live last week, and I said I think genuinely he won't change the team next week. They've gone away. They've earned it. They've earned the opportunity to play again. And why change it? Isaac will be itching to start, but I think the only person you may change is Isaac for Wilson. And I think
that'll be the change tomorrow.
But I think listening to him today, he was asked about Wilson, and Wilson's had his first full week of training since the World Cup. I mean, I wouldn't disagree with you, Darren, but I just genuinely think the way how goes, he'll go unchanged again tomorrow. So that's my thought. But you think possibly Isaac for Wilson?
I think he'll play tomorrow, and I think Wilson will be back in the team on Saturday.
Right. Okay. Yeah. There's method in that madness as well. Like, yeah, a hell of a gamble though if it goes wrong.
I don't think I can't say it's losing. you know, Maisie, when I say I always say I'm nervous before a game kicks off. But for the first time in a long time, I'm not that nervous for tomorrow. I just think we're gonna. I hope next Monday you're laughing and say, "Oh, you were wrong, Darren." But I just fancy a good 3-0, 4-0 tomorrow. I don't. Something saying in my veins.
My mindset is that he'll play the same team tomorrow, but I think Isak will start against West Ham.
I'm the opposite, where I think Wilson will start against West Ham. Isak will start tomorrow.
I think Wilson will be upset. I don't think Wilson looked particularly happy last week when he came off, and I know you're not supposed to be smiling when you come off, but I'll be interested. PDK, I'm watching this ASM loving in the chat, like trolls and 9-0 ASM hat trick and 6 assists. Good God. Malcolm will have a cardiac if that happens. He's not ASM's biggest fan, is he?
No.
Alan, what's your take, then, mate? Do you think I've seen you nodding away? I think with me, you think you'll go unchanged?
I think it'll be the same. I really do. And in the ESM loving, everybody in the chat and the lads here, you know, when I go on different podcasts, they all say ESM's a hell of a player. You know, you're in your own world as a Newcastle fan, and yet every podcast, everybody says ESM's a hell of a player and they would have them in their team. And yet you just think, excuse me, are you doubting how good he is or how bad he is? We always say the faults in a player more than the good side. And yet the opposing fans always say that bloody frightened of him. When
they don't want to week in, week out, as we do. That's the difference.
Yeah.
Yeah. Vince Smith says unchanged team, but Pope up front. Vince is delusional with some kind of drugs that he's on with his medical condition. Obviously, Vince, get well soon, Vince.
I think what makes him more competent, like Darren says, Steve, is I don't know about the lads in the chat. This is the best defence I've ever seen we have as a unit, as a team.
Absolutely,
it's the best in 50 odd years of watching them lads. I've seen the Bobby Moncur, David Craig era, the Gino, obviously the 90s era. And we did have good defenders like John Beresford, I rated as one of the best left backs we've ever had. But as a foursome, as a unit, and I always smile, lads, before the game, to see them training. That is the best unit of 5 players I've ever seen at Newcastle United.
No, I agree with you, mate. I think it's.
That's what makes us more confident and less nervous, Steve.
Yeah. Well, I think that's why Darren's confident every week because, as you say, you just can't see Newcastle conceding a goal. Southampton's going to do the business.
A lot of it's got to do with the defence, but I like Botman. I think Botman's unbelievable. He's just a different level. How we've got him is beyond me. But you watch him, how he's just a machine in the back. Him and Shaw just. I'm so much for each other and they keep each other right, they cover each other. And Trippier and Dan Bernard, they've got a good bond between them.
Mm-hmm. Craig Lee says the whole team defends this one except you know who. I'm not getting in ESM arguments. Little FB says game's too important to change a winning side. I agree. I think most of us agree on that. Buck Tizer says if we don't sign a midfielder, then the left side is up for grabs. Big Joe move back into the middle and either Sean or Willock on the bench. Up to ASM and Gordon then. Interesting. Vince says ASM's our player. I back anyone in a black and white shirt. I loved L'Oreal and Hardy. What on earth are you going on about, Vince? Do you think Gordon will be a good signing? I think Howe will bring the best out of him. Gaza Toonami would do think he's going to be a good signing. Big Joe might score again, says Tom Dixon. And I think Shark will play as a defensive midfielder. He could do, but he won't do. We'll finish with this little bit of mischief making from John Ball. He says, do any of the lads know any more about the young lad from down the road, Chris Rigg? Is this move still in the pipeline? Now, I was talking about this to a Sunderland fan this morning. He hasn't signed a contract yet, Alan. He's 15. Now, that might be something to do with his age. But he came on against Fulham in the FA Cup and nearly stole a show, didn't he? And he's a Newcastle fan, and all his family are Newcastle fans.
I know the Sunderland, watching the Sunderland podcast, they're trying their utmost for him to sign because their line of taking about the young lad is he won't have a sniff at the bigger clubs. He won't get a chance at Newcastle. He won't get a chance because they'll obviously loan him out and it would be best for his development to stay at Sunderland. They may have a point, but you know, he is one of the brightest young prospects going out there at the minute. Man United are after him, and other clubs are after him as well as our own. I hope we do sign him, but you can see where Sunderland's coming from, Steve. And like I said, they are really pressing to keep him. And going down the line, you will not get a game at Newcastle as much as you think you're a Newcastle fan and this, that, and the other. But no, he cannot sign a professional contract till he's 16, as far as I'm led to believe, Steve. That's why he hasn't signed one.
Yep, okay. I mean, Chris, it's a bit of mischief, isn't it? I mean, there has players gone backwards and forwards, Darren, but if he's not signed on, then he's fair game, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But I can kind of give it Alan to be fair. Sunderland, it's a hard one. Yes, he's a young lad, but Newcastle, he's kind of sitting in the youth team and all that. But I think he's got more chance developing his career at Sunderland. He's a bit too young to come. Sunderland found him, be fair play to them. I hope he stays loyal, say the contract for Sunderland for at least 2 to 3 years and see how he gets on. You know, I mean, it's a marathon of sprint for the young lad, but it's just, I think he should stay where he is and develop there, see how he goes.
Yeah, okay. It'd be more difficult to get him when he's on a contract, Barry. But you know how he ended up there in the first place, I really don't know.
So I would get him now. I think part of the whole change in structure that the new owners are bringing in is to invest in the young kids, invest in the academy. I mean, one of the biggest hurtful things to me was losing Bobby Clark when he went to Liverpool, because I think that kid could have turned around and been a central midfielder for us in the future quite easily. He could have been another Longstaff. And to see the way the club treat him and treat Clarkey as well was absolutely obscene. And if we've got the chance to bring another local lad, yes, I appreciate it was something that they brought him on to that level, but it happens all the time, Steve. You guys said it the other day. Just, you know, it takes nothing for a big club to come sniffing around a young player with big ambitions. And I think, no, go for it. This is what we need to build. We can't, as a club, if we're going to move forward, we need to be investing in the young kids and bringing them through. And this lad sounds perfect. He's a Newcastle supporter. He's had that experience with Sunderland. Go for it. I think it's only because it's Sunderland that there's any sort of backlash about it anyway. I think if it was another club, we're doing it all over the place by the sound of it. We're looking at like the kid from West Ham. You know,
Chelsea's been doing it for years, Barry. Chelsea's been doing it for years. Their academy's second to none. Around London.
I love the story, Alan, that Ryan Giggs was at Man United's academy till Man U bribed his parents and got him as a youth player.
Yeah.
How long ago was that? No, I'd go from now. We need all the best players, young players we can get.
I've heard a couple of comments seen on the chat about watching the Sunderland podcast. Always know your enemy before you play them.
Go on, Alan,
lads. Enemy before you play them.
Alan's intel. He's the intel.
I love it. Chris Rigdon, finishing with you, Kev. He's a young'un. He's got a lot of skill, by the way. And they often say if you're good enough, you should be playing. That's that was a baptism.
He was
17,
lads.
He played the day for the 21 Sunderland 21s. He played for them the day.
Yeah,
and they beat them 2-1. So obviously they're trying to keep him around, lure him in the time we had Derby, winning the game and all that sort of stuff. But you hear murmurings and rumblings of rumours and stuff like that of young players coming in. But again, from my world and what I do is why the hell is he being let slip through the net already? Why didn't we go after him right from the start? Why wasn't he not in our? He probably had eyeballs on him. But at the same time, it's why is he not here first? That's my bigger question. But I know the scout department's growing. I know there's ID jobs going all over the country now. So hopefully that network will grow for these young lads who are playing across the country and across the world. And that's what Dan Ash was obviously doing.
Look at Bobby Clark at Liverpool, Kevin.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Scouting and it's that network. I've been involved in it. I've been looked from a player's perspective, and I do it now. Is identification of players, of young players, and keep them within your club where you're at. That's my job. That's how we're retaining players. Your retention of players is key to keep Premier League Premier League academy status, and how that all plays how you develop and grown them and got them into the first team at 21s, into first team and things like that. So yeah, why not go out get the lad. I made the same trip when I was 15 to go across to Sunderland and play for that lot down the road. But it is what it is, but you try and make your way in the game. But then I left Sunderland, thankfully. But so make the transition back over and join this evolution, what's taking place for him, because the world will be his oyster if he gets the right treatment and coaching.
Yeah, fantastic show, lads. Great hour. Please hit the thumb up. It is free. It does help the channel grow. Don't forget, we do have a social media presence on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. Just search for NUFC Matters. And yeah, people keep asking, how far away are you from 50,000? We're at 49,808. So 192 away from hitting the 50,000 mark. Thanks, everybody. If you haven't subscribed, it's free. It costs you nothing. Hit the subscribe button. And that's it. It's as simple as that. Please help us hit that 50k mark. I am back tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock, bright and early, with Ross Gregory, just looking to see whether there is any last day movement on the transfer market. And of course, looking ahead to our Carabao Cup game, which kicks off at 8 o'clock tomorrow night. As always, big thanks to Alan, to Darren, to Barry.
And to all over the moon, lads, tomorrow.
And next time I see you, chaps.
I do look forward on a Monday night because it's great crack, great people talking about NUFC. It's Monday night. It highlights me week. I love a Monday talking with all the lads. It's you can't describe what it feels like. Good people talking with each
Top man, great to see you, lads. See you next week.
Cheers.
Bye.